It's been I'm good. I'm happy. I'm actually like I'm just have you gotten to a point where you're so tired of yourself? And God is so good because he understands that you need some care, and there's a way that he approaches you. There's care, there's just this it's not guilt. It's not like a place where you feel bad about yourself after the fact, because he's so gentle with you. He knows you, he knows how to approach you. There's a still small voice that works with how he knitted you to begin with. And God has been so close to me recently, and I've just been I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be open about my my journey, because I feel like sometimes that we consume content that is curated and that's perfect, and we see the end of a person's journey and not really their journey, and not really how hard it is to be the best version of yourself, knowing that there is a best version of yourself, right? Like, I think if that is where you are, great, but like, I know there's a version of me that's out there that is incredible, and I know I'm not there right now. And figuring out that gap, figuring out what that takes. Excuse me, I look like I came from the gym because I did. But just figuring that part out and listening to God instead of the fears, and some people, it's not even the environment that's talking about you. You have a perception of what the environment would talk about you or would think about you. Therefore, you internalize that thought, and you make it true. And then, there's moments of happiness and joy that come that tells you, yes, okay, now you got it. But then it's only for a moment, because that feeling fades away, the emotions leave, and you're left with the amount and the person and the things that you need to do, but you haven't done them, right? And that's where I've been. And God is so good. God has been so good to me, because he's like, just do it. Like, just do it. Why are you afraid? Like, and the thing is, getting choked. I believe these things about other people, that they can do it, that they can be that person. But when it comes to myself, there is something that holds me back. And the excuses are there, and they're true, they're legitimate. It's not like the excuses are not real. Oh, you don't have this much money, you need this thing to start, you need that thing to start. All these things are true to a fact, but that it doesn't eliminate the thing that you need to do to get to where you need to be. And I've just gotten just tired of myself, just genuinely tired of myself. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be vulnerable, because I know I'm not the only one out there struggling with this. A new year comes and we're so energetic to do something, and then we're back at it. The thing is, I knew I wasn't gonna be working for anybody the moment I finished my grad school. I actually was in class. Sorry, my battery almost died. And I knew, like, I was going to school. I did my bachelor's, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be in Wall Street. I'm gonna do trading, blah blah blah. And by the time I went to grad school, I was like, okay, I see how the other half operates. And I was like, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna actually work for somebody. Grad school did that thing for me, where I literally internally decided that my path was gonna be entrepreneurship. Before I even this is 2017 is when I graduated. So 2017 I knew. And your heart just confirms that that's your path. and I moved to DC, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be with family, I'm gonna figure it out. But then noises, they came, they chit chat, it comes to you, and you're like, you know, you just finished your master's degree, you don't wanna just like start something and a business, you would rather work for somebody, you know, because that's like the status, like you want to be working for somebody. That's the only way you feel recognized. And the thing is, now I think about it, I feel foolish, but at the time the pressure was there, and it's just societal norm, especially the Ethiopian culture. You graduate school, you get a job, there's no self-discovery, there's no nuances, none of that. There's a straight path. And I was like, I knew it wasn't for me, but guess what, you know, I started driving Uber. I've been entrepreneurial, I've been trying to do my own thing since the beginning. I've been driving Uber, and you know, I meet this guy, and he was in the back of my seat, and pretty much I didn't even interview for a job. Swear to God, I didn't even interview for a job. The guy worked in finance, and he's like, you know, there might be an opening in the bank, blah blah blah. One thing led to another. I'm at that job, and I was like, thank God, you know, I got this job. I was so happy. Okay, I was so happy. It was from God, right? I still don't doubt it was from God. But the thing is, not even 2 months into that job, I was like, when am I gonna quit? Like, because this isn't for me. This ain't for me. I was like, this can't be what God has said for me. And that doesn't mean that like you don't need to stay somewhere where you need to be for a long time for you to discover what the next steps are. Everything does not come for you. But I knew that wasn't my path. Like, I knew that wasn't gonna get me to where I need to get. So I knew it was just like, okay, I literally put myself in this position. I begged for it. I literally twisted God's arms, and I said, I need this job. He gave it to me. I was unhappy. I was like, oh, maybe it's the place. So let me change. Went to Wells Fargo. I actually was like, oh my God, this is better, right? It's chill. Loved it. In fact, it was chill. You know, it was less intense than I needed it to be. And then a few months in, and I was like, this isn't for me. This isn't for me. And then long story, another time probably would share. Got married. I went to moved to Minneapolis 4 years ago. And then I was like, you know, it was a big company, maybe I should go small. So I went small. Great company, no shade. Wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I literally was, Sunday nights I would cry, but it was my own doing. I was getting nearly 6 figures at that point, but I was not happy. I was not happy with where I needed to be. That does not mean that the thing is, like, I knew it wasn't for me. It wasn't my place, meaning not only was I not in my place that I needed to be, I was actually occupying somebody else's place. That's how I feel now, because by design, when God created us, there's a space for us. There's a space. It's like a Lego, and there's a specific place where we need to be, and I wasn't in it, and I was actually taking somebody else's space. And best thing that ever happened to me after divorce is actually realizing some of the things that I believed about myself weren't true. Literally, it opened my eyes, and I was like, you know what, this isn't for me, and I'm not gonna do it. Does it serve me? No, I'm not gonna do it. The story doesn't end there. That's a sweet thing, right? Yeah, I was like, you know what, I was 2021 December, and I was like, typed in my resignation, and basically was like, you know, give me a few months. And then I was like trying to figure out my finances, to figure out what I'm gonna do. I still don't know what I'm doing, but one thing happened between that. I was like, you know, people tell me that I am really good at wedding planning because I've done so many people's weddings just for fun, because I enjoy weddings, I enjoy parties, I enjoy people. Why don't I give it a try? And this florist in Minnesota was like, I think there's a client that wants to talk to you. And then I just went for it. I was like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Literally took a bag that had nothing in it, I promise you. And they just felt good with me, right? They felt safe with me. And they're like, plan our whole wedding. I was like, well, okay. I'll charge you this much. And they're like, absolutely. And I was like, what just happened? Like, what just happened, right? And I was like, you know what? I need a partner. Talked to one of my really, really good friends. And she was like, you know what? I'm in it. We started a business together. Mind blowing. And I was like, okay, this could be something. So when I quit, I knew there was something that was waiting for me. But really, weddings happen a certain period at a time. I can't live off just wedding planning. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna quit anyway, because that was sure. Like, how I cannot explain it to you, but like, it was just done. I was like, not for me. I quit my job, and best decision I've ever made, hands down. Don't get excited, okay? And then there's many ways I get in my own way. Till this day, I promise you, till I recorded this video, I was in my way. So anyways, then was like, okay, let me just figure out what I'm gonna do. Quit my job, had a few months of relaxation, because I thought, this is gonna be great. Sunday scary is gone. Praise God, right? A few months in, wedding season, and we did our first season. We did well. We did 2 weddings, which is in 6 months time. That was kind of impressive for me. Might not be impressive for you. We did 2 weddings, and then fall came, and that's when the fear started. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And mind you, at this time, I'm still driving Uber, I'm still driving Lyft, because it was a temporary side hustle. That was the notion. But I was like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do. And at this moment, fall, it's actually becoming a full-time thing, right? Because I have to pay bills. Now I have a house, and all so many things happen, okay? I promise you, there's gonna be a time where I share all that stuff, which is insane. God's protection, praise God. But I was like, how am I gonna pay my bills, right? And then what happens is, I was like, you know what? I think I should, get a side job, get a job. Maybe it's the career that I needed to switch. So I was like, let me do digital marketing. So I was like, I went to UCLA. I did the online courses. And then I hired a resume builder, hundreds of dollars, by the way, spent on getting my resume different so that I can get a job again. You guys, after all that prayer and after all the things that I've done to get out of a job, I ended up in the same trajectory. Rejections. I'm telling you, rejection. I was like, okay, rejections, and then I went down spiral. I was like, at this point, I don't even know if there's other parts of my life, with my marriage dissolving and figuring out my faith and my direction, my belief, and all that stuff with God, the spiritual side, which is, I'm not neglecting that has a lot to do with why my professional aspect was suffering. But that kind of fed into it, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just drive Uber and Lyft for a while, figure it out. I'm not gonna put too much pressure on myself. What's happening in the inside though, my body is reacting. My body is like literally getting stressed out. I don't get sick, usually don't get sick. Started getting sick, started getting allergies, started getting like hives, and I'm telling you, these gray hair was extra. This is not just a divorce, this is extra from the stress of my own doing. And then I was like, summer came. When summer comes, it's awesome, because I'm busy with weddings. That year we did 8 or 9. And I was like, okay, this is great. Perfect, right? And then fall comes again. The cycle just doesn't end. When fall came, this time around, the pressure is getting heavier, because I can see my surrounding friends and family kind of getting worried about me. Because I'm like, okay, you have an MBA, but you're driving Uber. You have an MBA, but you don't have like a stable job. These things, were actually said to me. I'm not just making them up. They were actually said to me, but then I can also see it from people's, just the way they see me. That is literally the worst thing, by the way, because like I said, there is a person that you see that they probably see too because they love you, but that's not where you are right now. And that conflict always creates something. And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get a coach. I'm still doing social media stuff on the side. Like I would be doing TikTok, no, not TikTok, Instagram, some reels, but the reels and stuff, people enjoy my videos. I am hilarious sometimes, which you know, God is good. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do makeup stuff. I taught myself how to do makeup all these years. I taught myself how to do hair and stuff. So I'm posting that stuff, but there's an intention behind it, which is like, okay, let me do these things so that I can make money. And I'm not making money off of Instagram with 1,000 followers. So, you know, I started like hating doing it. You can see some of my videos. I hated doing them, but I loved doing them for people. But when the intention was about making money, they started doing the opposite of what it needs to do. And then fall came. Like I said again, sorry I'm going on a tangent, but I need to get this out of my system. Fall came. When fall came, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get myself a coach. I do wedding planning. Project management is also in my background. Let me just do project management. So I got a coach. I paid thousands of dollars to get a coach. I wouldn't invest that in myself, but I would invest it to get some sort of security. Okay? And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get a coach. Most of the people that were in the group, some of them didn't even have bachelor's degrees, and they would get jobs, you guys. And props to them. I love it, right? But I would apply and I would get rejected. Okay, this time rejection was the worst. I think I needed to be that low, like for God to humble me, because my disobedience was costing me. God is so good. I'm okay, but it was costing me. I'm telling you, I would get rejections. Like I would be like the last two people. They'll be like, oh, you're the last two people from our application. But the other person, we went with the other person. There was one job that was paying literally half of what Uber pays, and I still got rejected. And I was like, at that moment, it wasn't like, okay, let me sit back and listen to God because, hey, you know, no, I was like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not able to do these things. Like I really overestimated my capability, and now it started eating at the fact that like the things I believed in myself were not true, and the devil chats. Oh my God, give him five seconds of window, he would enter and chit chat, because he's circling us, right, 24/7. He's just waiting. That's what the Bible says. He's waiting to literally attack us. And so he was waiting, and he got me literally the lowest. I think I felt so low internally, because I was like, oh my God, I can't, I don't know. For the first time in my life, I'm not sure about my life. Like I was seeing where I was gonna be when I was in high school. In high school, I knew, in Ethiopia, in high school, I saw myself graduating grad school. That's the type of person I was. I knew what I needed to do to get to the next level every step of the way. This was like, I was like, okay, I really don't know. And God was like, yeah, you don't know. Like, you don't know, because the things that I was asking God for and the obedience that it takes were not matching. It was not matching the obedience, and not only just the obedience, but the faith it takes to get to where I need to be. So we're at fall 2024. And I'm telling you, breaking this cycle is probably the most amazing thing I've done for myself this year. Fall 2024 comes. Wedding business blooming. We did 19 weddings. Praise Jesus. So the wedding business was keeping me busy all summer. I also started another business with my friend. Very early stages. That requires a lot of attention, a lot of money, a lot of funding. So just busy with all that stuff. And then fall comes, like I said. When fall comes, I started asking myself, what's going on? The year's about to end. What did we do? And all that stuff. And my body started reacting again. And I'm not kidding you guys. It started doing it again. Like body flares. I was sick the entire month of between half of October and November. Just sick. And then, but this time around, I knew it was coming, that like, oh, I'm gonna have to ask what's gonna happen again, questions again. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna go to God, because there's something wrong. Like there's something fundamentally off about this whole thing. So by the end of November, when December came in, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna run around. I'm not gonna chase money. I'm not even gonna drive Uber. I'm gonna sit down. And by this time, I haven't driven Uber for like 6 months because of all the business that was taking time. But I was like, you know what? December comes and I start panicking. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sit at the feet of Jesus. I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna ask him what he wants me to do. So the whole of December, I spent time with God. I just sat down and listened. I wrote. I listened to worship. I just read the Bible. I went down to the principles. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to Proverbs. The simplest place. What's his name? The King Solomon. He wrote it for his son. I'm gonna read it. I read it. Back to the principles. Back to obedience. I was like, there's nothing new that I'm gonna do. There's literally nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun, clearly. But God's like, just do the things I've given you. Like, just do the things that I've already told you. Just do it. And I was like, okay, God, I hear you. 100% I hear you. You think that changed, right? Like, you're saying, oh my God, now you're this person, now you did this. No. I heard God's voice. I was like, okay, let me do it. Like, I was like, oh, the lighting needs to be perfect. Oh, my voice, but then my sound. And then editing, oh my God. And then I was like, oh my God, looking at all the content creators, looking at all the stuff that I want to do. I was like, oh my God, pick a niche. Oh, do this, do that. Overwhelming. The consumption was like crazy. I was spending more time consuming than I was doing the thing that God already told me to do. So I'm out here sitting down, creating content. I started on Instagram, back on YouTube, and the lighting and the editing and the wording, the scripting, all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? This is already choking me up. Like, I'm already feeling overwhelmed. And I'm not saying those things are not important, but obedience is exactly that. Saying okay and then doing it, right? And all the noise and the perfection and this slide and this transition, all that stuff is gonna come later. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, this video is just me doing it. This video is just me obeying. This transparency is not just, it's for me because this is me obeying God, but if it's for you, awesome. But for the first time in ever, I'm breaking the cycle of being the reason I'm not where I need to be. It's not from God. God's not the problem. God's not answering your prayers. I don't know if this is for you, but God's not the reason you're not where you need to be. You're the reason where you're not supposed to be. And this is not I'm not blaming you, but the way God speaks, he's so gentle. I fasted and I prayed and I asked God, and the way he spoke to me, he waited. He was waiting. He waited for me to do one thing 3 years, because that's how gentle he is. That's how caring he is. And he knows what makes you do the things that you need to do, because God rejoices in the best version of you. God is happy. Heaven is glad when you are where you need to be. Jesus walked on this earth, did what his Father wanted him to do, and he's sitting up there in his glory, completed, finished. And that's exactly what he wants us to do. And this is just a testimony of me just doing it. I hope this helps.